Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Great Unicorn Hunt Knowledge Series. Today, our topic for discussion is how not to lose money in early stage investing. We have with us today Inchara Jaganath from NuVentures. Welcome, Inchara. Give you a brief. Inchara is a part of the core investment team at NuVentures, which focuses on early stage funding across verticals and sectors. With over 40 companies in their portfolio and including three unicorns, NuVentures has seen successes in Mu Sigma, Echo, Big Basket, Home Lane, to name a few. That's really a great success you guys have with great names as such to adding your portfolio. Let's get started on to the interview. So, Inchara, I would like to know more about your journey in the early investing space. How's that been?
Sure. Thanks, Ruella. In a nutshell, my stint in private equity was a bit fortuitous, I would say. My work ets and training so far and skill sets rather lie more in the space of management and marketing, which kind of led me to work deeply within the startup ecosystem, which gave me a lot of learning. This in turn helped me develop specific know-how in the models of open innovation, co-creation, and early stage incubation, combined with which it ultimately helped me gain my current footing in the VC journey.
Yeah.
So talking about NuVentures, particularly, we focus expressly on equipping early stage startups and fine-tuning their value props, scaling requirements, and ultimately, of course, GTM. Our focus basically lies in building a community of investors and entrepreneurs, and we look at a more holistic approach to investing. I would say a foundational belief I'd like to highlight that we as a team kind of commit to is that any solution, while really addressing need of PR use cases, must be very human centric and have sustainability at its heart. I think this is requisite to really break through as a winning and large scale concept, right? So vertically, we're agnostic, but I would call out B2B deep tech as our current core focus. Tech integration and solution architecture are critical areas of review for us. How startups use software layers to reduce capex and scale, this matters a lot. What kind of tech stack we're using, and of course, boilerplate codes need to be hyper personalized to be a differentiator and create a much needed stickiness, I would say, in the market today. So this, I think, largely sums up a very macro view of our investment thesis.
Awesome. And looking at the success rate that you all are going through and have achieved in the past, I'm sure this is really created a big jump for you all in the future also.
Right.
And so I'm sure our viewers will like to know what was your process of getting familiar with investing and how did you really jump into the space?
Okay. So I don't think one can really jump into the space, in my opinion. Many times, from an outside perspective, the VC world looks, it comes across as quite ad hoc and sometimes even whimsical, unfortunately. But to really get your money's worth, and this I mean for both the startup and the venture fund, it takes a huge amount of industry due diligence and market foresight. I would say making money in this asset class is very process driven. So for anyone wanting to get into VC, I would say start by staying up to date with industry news, market nuances, the policies, laws, basically the macroeconomics that kind of shape the landscape. Very important. And also, I think getting yourself familiar with the startup life cycle gives you a very solid footing. I would highly recommend this as a foundational learning. Also, clearly position your investment thesis, the fund and ticket size. It's also imperative to market what you can offer to budding ventures. I believe that strongly. So, besides just capital, of course, we have to essentially champion the role of being their ambassadors, right? So, we need to keep in mind that the best founders always have options. Definitely know your metrics, outline the ones that are best parameters or indicators for your chosen thesis. I would say the two no-brainer gateways to VC are if one has been an established or skilled entrepreneur or investment banker. Both these are not limiting, in my opinion, my case being a classic example. I personally started by being a keen observer of the playing field and getting my basics in place.
Yeah.
Of course, it always helps to get a mentor if you're lucky enough to have one. I think, in India, especially with the VC boom in the recent years, there are several Oracle of Omaha equivalents, if you will, within our ecosystem itself. So we don't
Yes.
need to look outside. They are an institution of knowledge and come with really unparalleled business acumen. So it definitely helps to lean on the expertise.
Awesome, great, yes, and I'm sure this will help our audience know on how to select the startups or how to begin their journey in the space. Also, what are some of the pitfalls or you can say red flags you think like an early stage investor tends to actually ignore?
Yeah. So in early stage investment, we typically conduct very comprehensive due diligence, but before making any sort of decision. But I think the basic need is to set mutually agreeable expectations right from the beginning in terms of path to profitability and timelines with the startups. But there are certain red flags that can sometimes be overlooked or rather downplayed. I would call out lack of market validation as one. If a startup is unable to demonstrate market validation or any clear demand for its product or service, it may indicate a clear risk. This involves market research, checking viability of TG, and the right amount of pre-market testing with potential customers, both from the startup as well as VC side. So seeking out new markets like the G7 countries, for example, I think needs to be on the radar in this day and age.
Yeah.
Secondly, inadequate IP protection. This is an underrated one, in my opinion, as intellectual property is the most valuable asset for a startup. It's the biggest factor, in fact, I would say, for competitive advantage and creating a barrier to entry.
Yes.
If the right measures have to be put into place to protect IP through whether it be patents, trademarks, copyrights, or trade secrets. It's very critical. Then another one would be poor financial management. The long-term success of a startup depends on how sound their financial management is. So I would say some of the key metrics to be considered could include cash flow, burn rate, IRR, MRR, ROAS, and how they ultimately weave into the overall financial projections. Unwarranted spends are a sure indicator of a startup going defunct. So that's for sure. Next, lack of a clear business model. I would say a startup needs to have a well-defined and realistic model on how it plans to generate revenue with clear milestone mapping and a clear path to profitability. Well, it's not easy. All this has to be done with while keeping all the stakeholders' interests in mind, which is extremely diverse. But investors should clearly evaluate the startup's monetization strategies, I would say, pricing models and customer acquisition plans. Many times I've noticed we've seen a very unrealistic assumptions and lack of clarity when it comes to this, which has led to undue stress on the investor startup relationship, amongst other scaling and operational challenges in the future of the startup.
Okay.
I think besides the ones we've already outlined, I'll just make a quick mention of a few obvious ones. So yeah, never bank on a weak or inexperienced team. That's a no-brainer. Over reliance on a single customer or a partner is a big red flag for us.
Yes.
There has to be enough focus on customer acquisition, and same way, any limited addressable market will directly affect scalability of the startup. So to sum up, it's quite crucial to have confidence that the startup will cater to large markets.
Correct. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with your points, and thanks for the checklist you have provided. This will help our audience like to know more on how to check the whole startup space and if they want to get started with the early investing stage, how to take this forward. You might have observed certain successful, early stage investors. What are some of the best habits or best practices that these investors follow that you think like?
Sure. Right. So we wish there was a clear playbook for this, but unfortunately, the contributing factors to an investment and innovation by itself is so fast paced that we need to evolve on the go. So I won't spend too much time talking about due diligence, diversification, and team focus. Those are no brainers. We all know that. The lesser spoken about best practices that I've seen work really well are active involvement as a value add. Investors, top investors are typically very well versed with tackling scaling challenges and leveraging their networks. So a lot of startups that I speak to on a daily basis have called out active engagement and especially strategic support by investors as one of the main factors in their success. So that's something to keep in mind. Just by leveraging their networks, investors can quite often open many doors to potential customers, partners, and future funds. It makes a big difference. Secondly, I'd say holding a long-term perspective is also important. Early stage investments, and obviously so, require a certain amount of time to kind of mature and realize significant amount of returns. So a long-term perspective allows this turnout without any, I would say, undue pressure on the founders.
Yeah.
To say there will be potential ups and downs in early stage funding is a given, but I would say investors need to be conscious. They need to have the willingness to see this through. Give the founders enough breathing space to kind of grow and achieve their milestones. Not immediately start talking about exit strategies that comes with time. The next point actually brings me back to how I started started answering this question. Continuous learning and adaptation for venture funds are key and critical. The startup ecosystem is heavily dynamic, and the hypothesis is always evolving. I would say we have to stay on top of the industry trends, emerging technologies, market gaps, and also be preemptive about it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So this helps us adapt our investment strategies and stay ahead of the curve.
Awesome. Yes, that's
another best practice I can outline is actually risk management strategies in early stage investment. We need to put in the right protocols to mitigate potential losses. Some of the factors I could call out to keep in mind are risk reward ratios, evaluation of the startup specific risk profile, market volatility, of course, competitor analyses, and even the regulatory challenges play a big role.
True.
Oh, and how we negotiate favorable terms and appropriate safeguards in even our investment agreements goes a really long way. That's quite key. Yeah, I think if you keep these few foundational laws in mind, the chances of early stage investors identifying promising startups and helping them scale their portfolio into successful ROI can increase by a large extent.
True, very true. Correct. Thank you so much. And over here, I would like to end the interview. Thank you so much for spending the time, and the best.
Thank you, Roella. Thanks so much.